And we are live. Welcome to Life of a Home Cook. I've got my sister with me tonight, Miss Denise Jordan. Yay, of Homemaking with Denise. And I'm Leona Dooley of Ebony Ivy Thyme. And we are so glad to have you here with us tonight. We're in the middle of summer and we've got all kinds of fun things that are going on. So I just can't wait to get to talk to all of you. Now, tonight, we are going to talk a little bit about some of the things that may be affecting your life at this point or may have affected your life at some point. And so I'm gonna tell you a real quick story. Now, last month I haven't been on the plant-based journey but a short time this time, because this is the second time around. But last month I had this great dinner. I had roasted chicken. I had creamy mashed potatoes and green beans. I was so proud of myself until my youngest grandchild said, "Ooh, Mimi, it's too mushy." And then I'm looking at my husband who says, "Well, honey, I can't eat dairy." And because we had sour cream and cheese and all that good stuff. And I'm going, "What?" And so then I had another grandchild who needed sugar-free options, as well as I probably needed to have watched that as well. And then my oldest granddaughter looks at me and says, "But Mimi, I like vegetables." And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. I wanted to pull my hair out after this wonderful meal. And at that moment, I realized that we are in the age of not just cooking that one set dinner for everybody. We used to be able to do that. I could do that. But in today's world, that's almost not possible. And so it was wearing me out. So does that sound familiar?
You know what it does. Now, back in the day, when my mom made dinner, she put one meal on the table and you ate what she cooked. And that was it. And everybody that has been on this channel for more than 10 seconds knows that I don't like fish. My parents loved fish. They fished all the time. And we had fish for many a meal. And when we had fish, I ate it because you ate what they put on the table. Mm-hmm. But I swore when I grow up, I ain't going to eat another fish. And I have not. So when I had my children and I would make meals, I pretty much said, you're going to eat what I put on the table. However, I allowed them to not like one thing. So if there was one thing I knew they didn't like Jason didn't like peas. Jill didn't, she could give or take. My husband, he would eat them, but he didn't particularly care for them. So I thought, okay, I won't cook peas. So I didn't cook peas in the Jordan household because that was everything that they didn't like. But everything else I cooked, I expected them to eat. But today with the grandchildren, it's like today's moms have such a different philosophy when it comes to rules around what they eat. And chicken nuggets is a food group. They eat out so much. And it's like kids, there's so many picky eaters. And you was like, picky eater. You weren't a picky eater when you were growing up. You ate, period. But now there's so many people that say, well, their kids are picky eaters. Well, they're picky eaters because they're allowed to be, I believe. Now, sometimes there are true things people don't like. Like my one granddaughter, Morgan, doesn't like bananas. You can put banana in anything, think you can hide it. If there's banana in it, she knows that. She's like, ooh, this tastes like bananas. She doesn't like bananas. Okay, she doesn't like bananas. I get it. Like this. However, when you have so many things that they don't like, I think it's just a matter of either palate or they just have to learn to accept new things, to try new things. And I know I'm talking quite a bit, but when I was doing community health in a particular school system, at the farm to table program. And so farmers would bring vegetables to the schools every week. And then the kitchen would prepare them. They served them raw, but they would
Mhm.
prepare them, slice them, that kind of thing. And then they would send them to the different classrooms for the kids to eat, so they could like try new vegetables. And half the time the kids didn't eat them. That's because they
Mhm.
weren't exposed to them, they weren't used to them. It was something new. So I think it's just a matter of let me just stop talking because girl, I'm on a roll. I'll be quiet. You go ahead.
Well, actually, you are on the road that we are going because we are not alone in this. Let me tell you, there are way too many families who are also going through the same thing. But I think the difference is that back in the day, a lot of times it was just because people didn't like whatever it was. That was you saying, I don't like this, I don't like that.
Mhm.
And that was either well or good, but if budgets were tight, they just had to eat within what mom prepared.
Mhm.
However, today we're looking at almost a totally different picture.
A big shift.
Yes,
Short
it's
order.
amazing. Yes. We've got, say, if we have 6 or 7 people around the table, and the reason I thought about this for tonight was because I was talking to my daughter, and she was saying there's 6 of them, and she has an allergy to gluten, and she can't eat certain vegetables. And
Mhm.
at this point, there's certain meats that she can't eat. And I
Mhm.
mean, to the point of where she'll blow up. And then her oldest daughter, she's allergic to pineapple. And, I had not realized that pineapple, oh my gosh, is in so much stuff that, you get from, processed food.
Mhm.
And then her husband has a health condition, so he has to watch the salt and the sugar, and he has to watch the gluten too. And the baby girl has eczema that is triggered by certain foods.
Oh
And
gosh.
so, as long as she's away from those foods, she doesn't have the problem. Then,
Mhm.
of course, my oldest grandson, he can eat a horse and he's good and nothing bothers him. But, it's, as she looks around, she said, Mom, it's making me crazy. Just trying to figure out, can I fix this? And if I fix it, then how? And so, how should I fix it? What can I put in there? And she said, we struggle to go out
Yeah.
because then we're worried about what's going to go on with that. So, as we think about that tonight, we're going to try to come up with some ideas of what might help, because this is affecting not just the moms of the children, but it's affecting the grandmothers.
One thing that I remember when Jill and Jason were born, Jill was a little preemie, so she had to stay in the hospital a little bit longer, and then she was spitting up quite a bit. And I did try to nurse them, but she was spitting up quite a bit, and so they put her on Prosobi formula.
Mhm,
And I just thought, I'm not buying 2 kinds of formula. I'm just going to give both the babies Prosobi
mhm,
formula. So
mhm.
that was what I did. So I wonder if we've got the gluten-free, the peanut allergies, can we just make one meal that incorporates all of that? Because as you were talking about that, my sister Blue Skies, she has a severe nut allergy. She has so many food allergies that she talks more about what she can't eat than what she can eat because there's so
Mm, mhm.
there's severe allergies. And so, especially today, there's so many peanut allergies. And then, like
Yes.
I said, I have a history of heart disease. I have AFib
Mhm,
that is managed with meds, but I need to be on a heart healthy diet. I need to be on a kidney
mhm,
friendly diet. My husband has, high blood pressure, as many men by the time you get 75 years old and of a certain ethnicity. He's got high blood pressure. So I need to
mhm.
be concerned about the salt in his diet. So I've really been thinking a lot more about this the past few weeks. And I guess maybe because we've been talking about it and
Mhm.
thinking more about the budgets.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I tell you what, and speaking of well, I know we'll come back to the budget in a minute. So I'm gonna hold on to the budget part because we are going to talk about that, because that is important as we're trying to shop, and to shop carefully for our
Yeah.
family. So at this point, I'm the family that's looking at, because everybody's decided now, since I'm going more plant based,
Mhm.
that they're going to try to lean more plant based because they think that will help them to be more healthy as well. And
Mhm.
especially my daughter, she says, "Well, Mom, I seem to be having some of the same problems that you've had. So evidently, I need to start now."
Yeah.
Trying to clean things up, and maybe that'll be better, and that may be true.
Mhm.
But as we think about this, and the more research that we do, we find that sometimes that traditional American diet, while maybe many years ago it worked, but I think with all of the additives and the preservatives that's put into the foods at this point, that those are the problem. It's not the food, is the things that are going into it. So we've got some people out there, and before we get really deep, because we're gonna go deep tonight, and
Okay.
before we get too deep, we're going to say hello to everybody. It's busy over here. I see we've got Hazel, and Hazel said she's got some company that's going to be stopping by. So she says she may be a little late to the discussion, and I'm hoping she'll get back to us. We've
Mhm.
got Tamika with us tonight. Hello, Tamika.
Hey, Lisa.
We got Molly with us tonight. Glad you're here.
Hey, Molly.
Hey, we've got Michelle with us tonight. Hi, Michelle.
Nice to see you.
Glad to see you. We've got Sweet Tea who's with us. Good. And we had Denise who was saying hello to everybody. Um, Molly said, "Oops." Molly said, "I hope it's not my ear, but," oh, she was having problems hearing, but
Mhm.
I think she got it worked out.
Mhm.
Ann Allen's with us. I know Ann will be with us, and it's late where Ann is, so she'll stay as long as she can.
Mhm.
And Hazel's responding. Let's see. Okay, she's figured out it was her computer. All right. So we have Vicky with us tonight. Hello, Vicky. You're in South Carolina, so am I, and enjoying South Carolina weather. Dolores Wilson is here with us, and she says she could not stand liver and onions. Oh my goodness, Dolores, I
He ate that.
love.
I didn't mind
I,
liver and onions. I ate that, but I don't eat it anymore. I don't eat organ meats anymore.
oh,
But there's
okay.
low in cholesterol, and see, I got that heart thing, so I it's like I
Oh,
just don't
that's
eat it.
true.
But I
That's
do
true.
still eat bacon.
Yes, I do love liver and onions, and I like chicken livers. But of course, now all this in the background, I won't be eating that for a while or ever. We've got beef tonight. She said the kids are so picky now. They need to stop making those microwave or toss it in the oven bowls meals. And some of those you're absolutely right, because they do have the extra items in order for them to have a good shelf life. And so and kids have gotten used to just being able to pop those in, and then they don't want to sit down to a regular meal.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. We got Tamara with us. Hello, Tamara. We're so glad you're here. Mwah, mwah, mwah. You know what that's all about. I had a
I
good time
do.
today. I was in my apron, and we've got Cynthia here tonight, and she says she's a little bit late. And if you explain why you're both wearing red shirts, she missed it. You, you know what? I
Go
hadn't even,
channel.
it was by chance. It was totally by chance. Thank you. Glad we look nice.
Well, I was
Oh,
seeing some red and white stuff today for my canning course because red and white's the colors, and I had
mhm.
on some really pretty red and white aprons, so that's why I still got red on. But I'm like, oh, we both kind of
Well,
match.
and I had this went with my apron, so that's what I had on today. We
Honey.
got Dave Walker with us. Hi, Dave.
Hey,
And
Dave.
so we're glad that he's here with us. And Dolores said that some people don't even sit at a table. You're absolutely right. A lot of people have gotten away from sitting around the table to have dinner. And some of that I think is because we were brought up to do that, and we understand the necessity of that community and relationship with at the table. And so, with people coming in and out and basketball games and football games and whatever track meets and whatever, and everybody coming in at a different time, sometimes it's hard to have
Time in
everybody.
hard. But there's been studies that have been done that shows that that families that sit around the table for their meals are happier families. They do better. As
They
long as
do.
it's not a contentious situation that they're picking that time to
Mhm.
discipline the kids or tell dad that they did this or that. But if it's a time
Mhm.
where you're sitting there eating or talking, studies have shown that it really works best for them. And if, like you said, in and out during the week, at least on Sunday for Sunday dinner.
That's right. And I think the table is a great place to be able to really teach children how to build relationships
Mhm.
and how to communicate.
Mhm.
Because, our kids are so attached to those phones and computers at this point, it is so hard to get them to talk. So we're just glad that, we're trying to get back to the table. And I
Yes.
think that's the thing. So Vicky's saying that times have really changed. That people don't like to sit around the table as much anymore. We've got G2 Country Girl with us tonight. Hello, hello. We're glad you're here. We have Nitty T who's with us tonight. Glad to have you.
Oh,
Lois
with the
Hartford.
bread.
Yeah, Lois is here with us tonight. Um, and I'm gonna stop here and we'll come back. We'll get into what we're talking about and then we'll keep going. But while those of you who are in the chat,
Oh,
you know,
Leona, before you go,
mhm,
you got a super chat. You better check that out.
what's that?
You have a super chat. Look up at the very top.
Oh, oh, who did that?
It just says A. I don't know who that is, but
I don't know. What do you do with it? I've never had one.
you just click on it so people can see it.
Okay. Oh, that's so sweet. It says, thank you, Miss Leona and Miss Denise, for everything I have learned from both of you. I just need to stop falling off the bandwagon.
Oh,
Oh, it's Ari. Ari
yeah,
girl.
Ari girl.
50-50. Oh, Ari girl, thank you so much. Well, we will certainly share that and enjoy. Thank you again. I appreciate that.
You. All right.
Oh, that's so sweet. All right. Now, so as we're adapting these dietary changes, and I was talking to Miss Denise. For those of you, we talk quite often, but as we were talking about the script for tonight, um, I started to think of other things. As you think of, we've got folks who are dairy free. We got people who are sugar free. We've got people who are gluten free. And the list just kind of keeps going on. So, as we talk about those dietary changes, when you sit at your table with the family, and I know at this point you don't have the whole family here, Denise, but even like at Thanksgiving, do you have to make adjustments for dietary differences?
I certainly do. Like my oldest son doesn't eat any pork,
Mm-hmm.
none at all. So when I make collard greens for
Mm-hmm.
holiday meals or Sunday dinner, I have to use turkey tails or turkey thighs. I'll alternate with something else that has a lot of flavor. So, for that. And then
Mm-hmm.
he likes to eat salmon and he'll eat fish, but he doesn't like to eat salmon, fish, and chicken. So I have to make sure I have some of that. Now he will eat turkey. Now, when he first got married, he wouldn't even eat that. But his wife has kind of gotten him to eat at least chicken and turkey, his fish. But his wife has to eat gluten-free.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, okay, so if I'm making these mashed potatoes, am I just going to make plain old mashed potatoes like I normally do and not worry about that? And she can choose something else because there's so many different things that you can choose from. So I have
Mm-hmm.
to think about that. And then, of course, if there's some allergies or the this or the that. So
Mm-hmm.
I just have to really think about, okay, what do individual people need? And at holiday time or even Sunday dinner, there's typically enough of a variety that
Mhm.
people get filled up without any problem.
Yeah. Now, do you find yourself? I know even for as similar as a something as small as a family picnic, we
Mhm.
have to label everything.
Mhm.
And of course, now we like brownies with pecans or with walnuts or whatever, and the kids have to have brownies with no nuts.
No nuts.
And of course, now I've gotten to the point that all brownies, whatever that I do, they're always gluten free. And so it just the nut's going to be the issue. So I try to make sure that I keep those that they can have in a separate container. But now, even as far as macaroni and cheese, I have to have a gluten-free variety as well as a regular variety. So, as you're looking at those things, and sometimes those are very common things
Mhm.
that we make along the way, but we have to adjust for that. And
Yeah.
like tonight, we I was telling Denise that we had a bean soup,
Oh,
and so as I made the bean soup, normally when I make white bean soup, oh, we've got ham hocks,
wow.
we've got all the good stuff that's in there, and so I think. Hubby kind of looked at the soup, and he was a little hesitant when he first started, because he said, well, he's going in the soup. He said, well, now where's the meat? And I said, there's not any. And so he said, oh. So he took the first, he said, oh, this is really good. And I said, of course. But I think at heart he was still going down there hoping to find some meat that was going to be in there, but he had enough of everything that he left full. So that has been my greatest struggle, is that now, I to be honest with you, I cook for myself.
Mhm.
And that's what I've decided to do. I'm going to cook for myself, and then I add something on for him.
For him,
Since,
right.
then that makes it a little easier so I can adjust. So, what I suggest, and this was something that my daughter also suggested, was they started with a family meeting where,
Mhm.
the family sat down and talked about um, their problems, the adjustments that are having to be made. And of course, you've got adults, it's real easy, but when you've got little people, then it may not be quite so much. But they were able to share what they liked, what they didn't like. And she just kind of made a list in the effort to try to promote she wanted to make her menus more whole food types
Mhm.
of things. She said, she has not eliminated meat, but for those who don't want it, they don't have to eat it. Um, but she's leaning more plant based as well. And so she said that really helped, because then everybody felt like they were a part
Mhm.
of the solution of what they were going to do.
Well, that's important too when you said to have that meeting. And
Hmm.
my daughter has done this since the kids were old enough to really be able to talk about things. They
Hmm.
have their family meetings, and the kids can get out a PowerPoint and put together a presentation. But I'm just like, sometimes I think it's a little much, but this is not what they do in their family. However, they all are heard. I
Hmm.
think when you said to have that meeting, it is important, even if they're only 4 or 5 years old, there's going
Hmm.
to be things that they like or don't like, but at least if they could put their voice in, you may decide, well, we're not going to do that this time.
Hmm.
At least they were heard. And I think those are important. And my husband and I will kind of do that, but I
Hmm.
don't really think of it as a meeting because it's just the two of us and we talk off and on all the time.
Hmm.
But we were just talking yesterday about needing to make some dietary changes.
Hmm.
And so I decided, okay, I'm going to start having more high fiber meals
Hmm.
and more, at least a salad every day. And I'm
Hmm.
going to decide to do a salad every day at lunch. This really high fiber raw salad with like broccoli and cauliflower and,
Hmm.
beans and stuff, maybe a cold one, not
Hmm.
necessarily just lettuce, but, like the salad
Hmm.
does. Something that really works on the digestive system.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so we had that conversation and I thought, I'm just going to do that. And so he's going fishing tomorrow.
Hmm.
And it's going to be his turn to take the lunch. So
Ah.
at Baba's, and I think I'll just order some chicken wings or whatever. So you want something for lunch? I said, I'm not eating that. I just made a decision that I'm not eating those chicken wings and fries and fried okra from Baba's anymore. At least I'm gonna try not to, because the fried okra
Yeah.
is good. But I'm like, I'm not eating that. And so I said,
Mhm.
"You can get whatever you want to take for lunch tomorrow." So I'm making this salad for us for lunch. You can
Mhm.
or not, because we had tacos left in the fridge from yesterday. I said, you can eat it or not. I said, but I'm not eating that. And so when he left, he decided after he was out, because he had to pick up bait too while he was out.
Mhm.
And so he says, well, I stopped by Walmart and I just got a rotisserie chicken. And they'll have that for lunch tomorrow. He'll cut that up and put it into little baggies or whatever.
Mhm.
They lay it out on the boat in the sun so the sun can warm it up. Can you imagine the bacteria in that?
Eh.
It's what they do. I'm like, y'all do what? But they put the whatever they bring for lunch, they put it at the edge of the boat so the sun
Uh-huh.
can heat it up. So when they're ready to eat, it's warm.
Okay.
These are men. So I'm
Mhm.
okay. But so that's what they're going to have for lunch tomorrow.
Mhm.
And he didn't get the the fried, deep fried
Mhm.
and all that from Baba's. And when he came back, he says, well, he said, I thought about what you said. Because I said, because he asked me to help him eat differently. He
Mhm.
thought, if we're going to have to do this, we have to make an effort. So today was the first day I said, I'm not eating that.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh. And that spoke volumes, even though you didn't even know it.
yeah, yeah. So I made the big salad for lunch. And,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I have been prepping vegetables early in the week,
mhm,
and I keep them in the refrigerator. The lettuces are prepared. All the fixings are prepared, and so it was funny when I at lunchtime I typically put a salad together for me, and I'll usually say, "Honey, would you like a salad?" And he's going, "Oh, no, thank you. I'll just fix myself a sandwich." So
mhm,
okay, so he's gonna fix a sandwich, and but it was funny yesterday at dinner. I had my big salad,
mhm.
and along with I had baked a potato. He had a baked potato and his other food, and so. He said I had made him a little salad.
Mhm.
And so he said, I think I'm going to put this little salad in the refrigerator for a snack later. And he said, I think if I look at another salad, I'm not going to ever want another salad ever. Now, this is a guy who used to have salad every day. But
Mhm.
but I think for him, he's probably gotten a little burned out on the salad. And I told him, I said, that happens. And I
Mhm.
said, I'm not bothered in the least bit. So when I fix that salad, to stay out of it.
Mhm.
And so because that's for me, he said, well, I'm good with that. But as we think about it, um, there are some things that we just have to, and I think you did that in taking a stand. You have to decide that I'm going to eat this way,
Mhm.
and we're doing it for the long haul.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter if you're 20 years old, and
Mhm.
it's probably better if you're 20 years old, because I'm thinking, I know some things that are going on with me that I wouldn't have had I started eating this way at 20.
And
And
the other thing is, if you start it yourself early, your children will adapt those same eating patterns because that's what you're eating at home.
hmm
They will eat them because, like, my youngest son was a lot more eclectic when it came to his eating habits than my older ones because
hmm
I was eating a lot of different things too, and I
hmm
was exposed to more. So he ate whatever he saw us eating, he wanted to try it. So you
hmm
can teach them to do that. Now, that doesn't mean there's not going to be things they don't like. But with children, you want to remember that they have to learn to accept different textures. They have to
hmm
grow their palate. Because when I was a kid, I could not stand okra, but I don't mind okra today,
Mm-mm.
fried and breaded.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, oh,
But, these are things that you can learn to grow with, and you just have to offer it to them enough that, like our babysitter, when she would fix the kids' lunch, and they said they
Mhm.
didn't like her, didn't want any, they had to take 3 no thank you bites. So I learned that
Mhm.
from her, and I thought if that works at the babysitter, it can work at home.
Absolutely.
Like, take 3 no thank you bites, and by the time you offer something enough different times,
hmm
it's not that big a deal anymore. Now my oldest son still doesn't like peas. but I still don't like fish. I mean, I get it.
Well, it's funny. Speaking of those no thank you bites, that's kind of like cornbread. Back in the day, and when I was young, mom would fix cornbread, and at that point, she was a Southerner, so she didn't put sugar in her cornbread. Now, my dad, on the other hand, was from Georgia. When he made cornbread, it looked like a pound cake. And it kind of tasted like a pound cake because that's the way he liked it.
Mhm.
And so I would eat his cornbread, but wouldn't eat hers. And it would kind of hurt her feelings. But a couple of people sent me notes. It was so funny. They said, that's not cornbread because it has sugar in it. But that's the way I grew up eating it.
Cornbread has
And
sugar in it.
and it's cornbread. It just depends on how you got started with it. And I agree. Now I can eat it anyway.
A couple
But
tablespoons, of course.
yeah, I guess, they figured that it was better for me to eat it, even if I had to sprinkle a little sugar and butter on it, that it was better to have it than not have it.
Mhm.
And same went with peas. None of my family would eat peas without butter and sugar.
Oh, well, you know what? That's how we ate vegetables growing up. My mom, when
Mhm,
she prepared our meals, she put butter and sugar on
mhm,
all of our vegetables. So
mhm.
when I got married, my husband was like, what's up with this butter with this sugar on everything? And I was like, oh, you don't like that? So I had stopped putting sugar. Now we still put butter. Now I don't put as much, I rarely put butter in the veggies anymore because that's one of
Mhm,
the things that I had to kind of back off from with
mhm,
my
mhm.
fifth. But he likes butter in veggies, but sugar, oh no. Like, no, 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 no. So I had to stop
Yeah,
doing it. You
I
gotta get
raised
and they're looking at you sideways, like, what is that?
But it came down to
Hmm.
sprinkle it with a little sugar. At least the kids would eat it,
Yes,
and so I would sit theirs off to the side and do whatever I need to do to theirs to so that they would eat and then just fix his normally. But I guess we have to make adjustments along the way no matter what. But as I thought about this, for those of us who I'm gonna say over 50, that we want good longevity. And
mm,
my thing is that I want to be 80, 90 years old and still kicking it. I
yes.
want I want to be able to do the boots on the ground and have my fan going at 80 years old, and so,
Thank you.
and so in order to do that, I've got to make sure that I'm in good health.
Yes,
And so whatever we need to do, and that goes to whether it's the blood pressure or whether in your case it's AFib, whatever it is that we need to do to help control or to eliminate maybe
yes,
those conditions. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to allow our bodies to heal themselves. And so as we do that, because technically the body's a machine.
mhm.
And so as we do that, we want to be able to live to that ripe old age.
Well,
And
not just the ripe old age, though. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I thought about something
Mhm,
to the kids earlier is that children today in this country have more like, diabetes and obesity
mhm,
and other things. And part of that obesity is that they don't go outside to play anymore like they used to because
that
they're
too.
all inside with video games and that kind of.
Mhm,
But we have to start looking at feeding our children differently.
exactly.
Like when we grew up, we didn't go to
Mhm,
McDonald's every day or every other day. We went to McDonald's once in a blue moon, and it was a big treat if we got to go out
mhm,
to dinner.
mhm,
When we had our children, sometimes I wanted to go out to dinner because I didn't want to have to cook.
mhm.
Ever, we didn't go out to dinner 2 or 3 times a week, and we certainly didn't go to like McDonald's and places like that a lot.
Right,
Ate
right.
differently.
Mhm,
Whereas today's parents so often feed their children fast foods. Like one of my
mhm.
nieces, she's got DoorDash on a subscription. They eat DoorDash every night.
Oh my Lord.
These are things that we have to start changes we have to make with our children now so that
Mhm.
as they grow up, they learn to eat cleaner and they don't end up with some of the conditions that we now have to contend with.
That's true. And you figure really back in the day, we ate well.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
our food wasn't, I'm going to call it, as contaminated as what it is now,
Yes.
because we didn't have all of the preservatives and all those kind of things that were, not as many anyway, that
Mhm.
was in the food back when we were young. And so, whereas the children who are coming up now, they're having to deal with that. And so that's one of the things that we have to be able to think about that. But too, Denise, as just like when hubby was saying that he was going to, that he wanted his chicken wings and whatever for tomorrow, and you kept the focus on yourself
Mhm.
of saying that's fine, but that's not what I'm going to eat.
Yes.
I'm not going to have that. And so I just like we learn to say no
Yes.
when we're overwhelmed and there's things that we just can't add to our schedule. We're
Mhm.
going to have to do the same thing with our eating,
Mhm.
of just looking at what's there. And
Yes.
sometimes we might have to walk away and just say no,
Mhm.
because there's just some things we should not eat. Now,
Yes.
there are probably going to be some family members who may have a little difficulty with that,
Mhm.
along the way. Because I know I have some folks, you may have some people in your family, maybe not your immediate family, who may be a little offended, because I know, as I'm looking at, I can think of some who aren't immediate family members. And when they prepare their greens, I'm not going to call them up and say, so and so, are you having greens for Christmas? Well, can you prepare those without any meat?
Mhm.
And, so they may be offended when I
Mhm.
don't eat their greens like I normally would.
Mhm.
And or when I walk in and I have my big bowl of salad in my purse, and because I already know that there's going to be way too much sugar, way too much salt, way too much meat, all of those things. And I don't, I'm thinking I don't want them to be offended. And so we're dealing with those kinds of things as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back and see what, because they're chatting up over there.
That is
But
hopping. As Walter says, the chat is hopping.
I know, but before we get there, let me just say that this is life of a home cook.
Life of
And we are talking about tonight some of the challenges that we face as home cooks as we're feeding our family. And so often our family has various needs that we need to be able to attend to. And so I certainly want those of you who are coming in late, I want you to sit down with us, think about some of those things that you have that are going on around your table and in your kitchen. Welcome to Miss Denise and I. We are here, Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme, Leona, that's me, and Homemaking with Denise. And certainly, I invite you that if you are not a member of our family, then certainly please go to each of our separate channels and be sure to hit the like button as well as subscribe.
And please subscribe because Miss Leona is on her way to 5K. So she needs your help getting there. So
Whoop, whoop. We're working on it. We are really working on it, and we've got a lot to do between now and then. And so I just hope all of you who are here tonight in the chat that you are enjoying our conversation. Now let's see. All right, so we're going to start here. Wait a minute, let me go back here. All right, we're going to start with Dolores. She said she sees family in restaurants, and she said they all have cell phones. Yes, you're absolutely right. And you're thinking, where's the communication?
mhm.
And that is important as we sit around the table, whether it's at home or whether we're out and about. Thriving on Enough, we're glad to have you here.
Hello.
And she's saying, can we just start with a basic salad that everyone can eat? And I'm all for that.
Yes.
And in our family, now I'm thinking about the grandkids. I am fortunate that all of them are salad eaters except one.
Mhm.
And she only likes cucumbers, which is okay. At least she likes a portion of it.
Mhm.
But she's a savory person. And so she will eat. So they will eat salads. They love salads. So I don't have a problem with that. In fact, they'd rather have salads than to have cooked vegetables any day. So
Mhm.
that is a good thing. Um, let's go down to thriving on enough. She's saying, so
Ah,
she said, if we can create a salad bar style that will provide something that everyone can add to the basic salad, that's a
absolutely.
great idea. That's a great idea. And, it's just a matter of cutting up those vegetables. And, those are things that as moms, we can do, or home cooks, we can do in advance so
Yes.
that it's not overwhelming and it's not taxing at the last minute. That's a great idea.
And it's nice and colorful and it's attractive. And so they'll just kind of pick the different little
Mhm.
things. And so,
And
yeah.
I think they would enjoy that. They'd enjoy that. And in fact, what I would always do is to let mine, as I was going to the grocery store, I would buy the smaller bottles of salad dressing so everybody could have whatever type of salad dressing they liked.
I like
And
that.
that was their favorite. So I just made sure we had little ones, and that worked. Um, Vicky said that she's seen that too. I'm assuming she's talking about the cell. Oh yeah, with their cell phones, and she said it's terrible. Where's the real interaction and connection? And it's hard because unfortunately the kids are right there in front of computers all day,
Mhm.
and so that's just something that we're having to work in. Our world is changing. Now, Cynthia said that one of her adult children has belly pain after eating soy or whey. And she couldn't believe how many products are made of soybean oil,
Yes.
lip balm, cough drops, mayonnaise, fried potato chips. And she said the list just
So
goes
much.
on. It
Mhm.
is. And so it almost takes you back to where you've got to cook it yourself. And that way you know exactly what is in the food that you're preparing. And you're absolutely right, Cynthia. Now, Tom
I think
Tom,
just for a
Tim
second,
Tam.
let me just
Mhm,
back up just for a second. I'm thinking
mhm,
that is certainly a big pitch too for canning.
mhm,
When you can, you're in charge of what goes in the product and
mhm,
then what goes on the table. Now, pressure canning is what you're going to can, like those meats and vegetables, and it's not easy. I'm just learning that skill set,
mhm,
but it's not easy. But a lot of people do it all the time. They have no trouble with it at all. Water
mhm,
bath canning, though, like you said, you made some pickles earlier today,
mhm.
and then jams and jellies and relishes and sauces and all those kinds of things. You can make those things, control your budget, and also know what's going on the table for your family too. So,
That's right. That's right. Because it's amazing how many things they sneak into your foods. As you start reading those jars, you're thinking, "Oh, it's just cucumbers and the brine that's in there." But then when you start to read what else goes into their brine, it's like, "Oh my goodness, why do you have all of that in there?" The list just goes on. So Tam Tam, we're glad to have you. She was
yeah,
able to come to the live. She's new to both of our channels. We are so glad you are here with us. Thank you. She says she's learning so much from both of us. Well, we hope that
we have a
you
lot of fun over here too, Tam Tam.
we do. Sometimes we get real serious, but most of the time we're giggling. We have a good time. Um, let me go down. Let's see.
Somebody asked if we were related.
Actually, we're sisters by another mister, but no.
Young man on YouTube.
We sure did. We sure did. We'll have to tell you that story one night and of how we really got started. Dolores is saying that too many people feed their children processed food and they don't cook. And you are absolutely
That's
right.
the way so many of the young people cook today
Hmm.
or eat today. They eat processed foods. And, when we started to move away from the agricultural society and people moved into the communities and in the industrial society, and they started making foods that people could purchase so that people could go to work, that kind of thing. People thought, oh, this is great. But we didn't know what we were doing to ourselves and to our bodies.
That's true. That's true. I think at that point, and I think, and I'm pointing the finger, all the fingers at me, because I can think back to when I was working,
Mhm.
and I was going to school for an advanced degree,
Mhm.
and coming home trying to put dinner on the table. I
Mhm.
had babies, and I was overwhelmed.
Yes.
So whatever I could get that was fast and to have ready to go, my husband was traveling. Sometime he was home, sometime he wasn't, and I had all the responsibility.
Mhm.
I did what I had to do
It was quick and
to
easy.
to get everybody fed and ready for bed so that I could check papers all night and keep it going. But and I think that's where a lot of the moms are. My mom didn't work for the longest time, and so she was able to really put more time into the meals. I didn't have that. I didn't have it at all. Um, We've got Kathleen from Seattle. We're glad you're here. And Kathleen, if you missed anything, then please go back in the replay and catch up, because we're moving right along. Now Michelle says she tries to stick to 5 ingredients or fewer on pre-made foods, and that's a good idea. It's not easy to find,
Mhm.
at this point. She said it makes it easier to handle their various allergies and intolerances. And she said it really cuts down on the number of preservatives that they're getting. And, I have to think too that, they were talking about the obesity issue that is here. And, as you think about it, they're shooting, especially meats. They're shooting, the cows and the chickens with things to help them grow faster, and so that they can go to market faster. Well, you figure by the time we eat whatever that is, guess who else is growing faster? Our
Well,
children.
they say that's why girls are developing so early, because they're getting those hormones from the cows and cow milk.
Mhm.
Well, they're having hidden puberty earlier because of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know I had sixth graders that would walk in, and I would have to go, "And how old are you? How old are you?" Whoa! It's like whoa, whoa, oh, hold up. And so, it's and young men as well. So
Yeah.
as you look at that's something. It's real,
Mhm.
and so it's a matter of recognizing that that's what it is. Now, Tamika said she's plant based as well, and most of the food she prepares for herself, her family will eat it, but they'll add some sort of meat with the meal, and that's kind of what I'm doing, Tamika. That seems to be working for me right now, and prayerfully it will continue to work forever, because, and actually I'm hoping that eventually the big guy will just cut the meat out, because I'm getting his little portion smaller and smaller along the way, so that I can just ease him right out and over to where I am. And I think as long as it's good, then he'll be able to handle that.
Mhm.
We'll take one more and then we'll come back. Lois Harper, she said her granddaughter has gluten sensitivity. And if her daughter grinds the flour at home and then makes bread, she can eat it. She cannot eat store-bought bread or bread made with store-bought flour. And I'm sure some of that is because of the processing methods. And
Mhm.
also, I don't know about you, but I'm trying to think of where it was. There was a study that was done, and I'm not going to call the name of the store, but they had taken this particular store's brand of bread and found that that bread was able to stay on the shelf for 2 weeks without molding. People
Mhm.
could still buy it. And can you imagine how many preservatives was in that bread?
A lot.
For it to do that, because normally when you make fresh bread, it's not going to last that long.
Mhm.
And but this bread was soft and perfect and the works. And so it was mainly because of the fact that, yes, we have to be careful with the gluten. So many of us, as well as we've got to be careful with all those other little letters and words that we can't even read. I can't spell, can't read it, and just to try to figure out what it is. So we have to be careful with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the elephant in the room.
Oh,
Here
yeah.
it is. Finances and the budget. Now, I thought about this because the fact we have been hot on the budget, Denise, over the past few months, and it is critical. It's something that we really have to pay attention to as we try to do this, because I was sharing with D Lovely Life. I told her we went to California. Yeah, we went to California, and oh my God, the vegetables! I kid you not, Denise. My
Wait,
little green
you went
peppers
to
look
California
like,
and saw D?
huh?
You went to California and saw D?
Oh no, I didn't get to see her. I was just telling her what happened while I was
Oh, I
there.
was like, what? And you didn't come here to see me?
No. I didn't do that. But the little my little green peppers at my grocery store were like this size. When I went to California, we were in San Francisco. I kid you not, those green peppers were almost plate size. They were beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The vegetables that are grown out there, I think it's because of their longer growing season, and but they were absolutely gorgeous. But you paid 3 times as much for those vegetables out there almost. They were more expensive, and but absolutely gorgeous. The difference is you don't pay the prices between organic food and regular vegetables. There's no difference in price
Oh, out there?
out there.
Oh, interesting.
So it's up to you to make the choice which one that you want, because budget is not going to be the issue. If
Mm-hmm.
you can afford the vegetable, then you just choose between which one you want. Now, when I went to the grocery store the other day, lately, every time when I go to the grocery store, I kid you not, I cannot get out of there under $60. But I went and it was just vegetables,
Yeah.
vegetables, and the budget it was $67. Now, true enough, it will last all week, but it's just that I was looking at, and I tried to buy more organic. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that was one thing that kind of drove it up a little bit rather than just buying the regular. And I really wanted to see if there was a difference. And yes, there is. But as I was reading, I was reading one of the plant-based books, and they were saying that one of the doctors was saying, he said, let me just say this. He said, do we prefer that you eat organic? Yes. But if it comes down to the choice of eat the vegetable or not eat the vegetable, then we want you to eat the vegetable.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether it's organic at
Okay.
that point. You
And
eat
maybe
the
even certain ones might be more a bigger consideration for organic than others.
That's right. And he said, I just want you to eat the vegetables. He
Mm-hmm.
said, that's the thing. He said, and that's what people don't understand. They think if they can't afford organic, then what's the point? And he said, but the reality of it is that you're going to be far more healthy to eat the vegetables, whether they're organic or not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, organic is better if you can afford it.
Yeah.
So when you start to look at your finances and budgets and trying to work through what types of things you're going to look, then money very often is the issue. And when you're trying to uh, accommodate a more healthy diet and make those adjustments,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's going to hit your pocket.
Yeah, it is.
And because it takes more vegetables
Mm-hmm.
in order for everybody to have that vegetable variety. And I'm finding that. And as of this week, there's only 2 of us. We've got 2 more weeks, and it's going to be 8 of us here. And so, it's like, okay, I think I better be putting some money away,
Well, here's
because.
the thing as we think about that, though,
Mhm,
when vegetables are in season, and I think that's
mhm,
an important concept. When they're in season, buy more when they're in season and then
mhm,
freeze them because
mhm,
if you don't know how to pressure can, then you're going to
mhm,
need to freeze them or
mhm,
purchase canned goods. Now, some people don't like canned vegetables.
mhm,
I don't
mhm,
mind them, corn, green beans, those kind of,
mhm,
I don't
mhm,
mind vegetables because that's what I ate quite a bit because my mom would grow
mhm,
tomatoes, a few things like that. But for the most part, we had a lot of canned vegetables.
mhm,
Just buy those when they're on sale. Like, for example, 4th of July was last week, I think. And so
mhm,
we had a lot of barbecue sauce and baked beans,
mhm, mhm,
dogs, and all those kinds of things were probably on sale. So
mhm.
stock up during the season. Right now, tomatoes are just starting to come in.
Oh, yeah.
Just got a few red ones this week, but
Mhm.
they're starting to come in. Corn's not in good yet here, but it's starting to come
Well,
in.
it is here.
So,
Mhm,
so people can start picking up those things and putting those on the table, adding,
mhm,
and they're fresh. And so hopefully your people will like it. And
mhm.
cut back on the meat. Because I tell you what, you go to that meat counter and the meat,
Ooh,
I,
ooh.
and I just looked at it and shook my head.
Oh,
I couldn't even
I
believe what was in the manager special.
I did too. I was tearing it up looking for that manager special because I thought, okay, what I did, I got three different kinds of meat,
Mhm.
and I got enough for the big guy to have at least two meals out of each type of meat, maybe three. And so came home, divided everything up, sealed it up, put it into the freezer so I can just go. And
Mhm.
then that way, when I go to the grocery, I'm looking for more fresh food. But
Yeah.
now our corn here is on sale.
Mhm.
So depending upon what particular store you go, like just before the 4th, the prices change. Initially, it was like 3 ears for $1,
That ain't no
and
sense.
um, and now it's 5 ears for $1,
Yes.
and it's delicious.
Mhm.
So I bought initially like a dozen
Mhm.
ears of corn, came home, took it off the cob, and put them into freezer bags. So I'd have corn in the freezer. And then I went back and got more corn that I just wanted to prepare, corn on the cob. But, those kind of things. The tomatoes are in. So
Mhm.
I've got tomatoes to be able to slice or to use on a salad. And
Yes.
then as they start to get a little bit mushy, I'll chop them up and put them in the freezer. And that way I can use them for tomato sauce or whatever it is that we're fixing.
This is a good time to take your children, moms, take your children to the grocery store with you. And I know sometimes
Mhm.
the grocery store might be your place of quiet, but this is a good time to take them with you and then walk around and look at the different vegetables and see which ones they might want to try. Because if they're wanting to pick something out and then maybe they get to help figure out how to prepare it, they're more likely to eat it. And make it an adventure and just introduce them to new things so you can build their palate. And that's a way to get away from some of this damage that is being done with the
Mhm.
way we're feeding our children today. And I say we, meaning all of us collectively, not you, but I'm saying
Mhm.
as a people, um,
Mhm.
to learn to do things differently.
That's true. That's true. And like with potatoes, now of course the kids love French fries,
Hmm.
and so I do a lot of air frying of the potatoes,
Oh,
and I tried air frying them, and that seems to work. They're just crispy enough
mhm.
that they like it, and of course, and even the big guy
And
likes
no
the air fry,
grease,
huh?
and not all the grease.
Exactly, exactly. So, we're all trying to find ways that we can prepare what we have.
Mhm.
And so that's working. And plus, you figure vegetables are really going to be your best option, you know.
Yes.
And I've done away with all the sweet cereals as much as I like my Raisin Bran Crunch. I haven't. I love my Raisin Bran
Pantry.
Crunch. Once it ran out, I didn't buy any more.
Oh.
I love those Honey and Nut Cheerios, but once they
Mhm.
ran out, I didn't do those.
The
And
belt cereals.
we've switched over to total almond milk, and so that has been a good move, and that's been good for hubby because he was having some stomach issues and digestion issues, and so that's worked out. And so I think I'm relearning things that I know I knew,
Mhm.
and but it's just a matter of having to make that decision and make that change.
Oh, well, let's go back to the cereal too, because you
Hmm.
know, Cheerios are discontinuing some of their brands, and they had
Hmm.
three of the Cheerio brands on sale.
Hmm.
So I picked up one, and I really liked them. I like the Honey Nut Cheerios, as a matter of fact. But one of the things that we like to do for breakfast is what we call nuts and berries.
Hmm.
We'll have a yogurt, and then you'll put some um, maybe blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, whatever kind of fresh berries you like on top of the yogurt. Sprinkle it with some pecans or walnuts. Add a
Hmm.
little bit of granola and maybe some craisins. Now, if I've got the fresh fruit, I don't need to put the craisins on there. But
Hmm.
you know, but that's a way to kind of get some freshness in there as well. And
Hmm.
those are some things that you moms can switch out with your children. Let's say, okay, so
Hmm.
when you make that breakfast plan, they don't have to have cold cereal every day. Maybe
Hmm.
one of the days could be the granola with a little bit of yogurt and the fresh
Hmm.
fruit. And then another day, something else, but just kind of switch it up. I really learned to think differently about breakfast when we had our fast at church.
Hmm.
First time I had joined a new church, and this first time there was like no sugar, no meat, no sugar, vegetables only,
Hmm.
and you could have fruits, but then
Hmm.
there was even certain like starches that you couldn't have.
Hmm.
I learned to saute bananas,
Hmm.
kinds of things, and I was like, oh, sweet potatoes for breakfast. Just
Hmm.
really learn to eat differently. So we don't have to have cold cereal for breakfast every morning. We can certainly mix it up.
That's true. That's true. Or, we can make our own granolas and
Yes.
make our own cereals along the way. And I think that's a good option as well. I noticed that Victoria said that the best thing she did for her family was to get rid of that standard American diet,
Mhm.
and she loves other diets and tries to bring in other tips along the way. That's a great idea.
Mhm.
Cynthia says some of the adjustments are delicious. She said homemade sweetened whipped cream is much better than Cool Whip.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Homemade mayonnaise takes time, but it's well worthwhile. And so then in that case, she can eat potato salad and
Mhm.
cucumber salad. Now, my cucumber salad, I do with a vinaigrette rather than with the mayonnaise based.
Do you do yours in that jar? Are you the one that showed me the jar thing?
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep, I sure did. And so I make like an Italian dressing, homemade Italian dressing. Stuff those cucumbers, sliced cucumbers in. You can even throw in some tomatoes and some onions, whichever, red or white, and cover it with your Italian dressing. Whether it's store bought, try to buy the best you can, and go from there. Alexandria is
Hey,
here tonight.
Alexandria.
Yay! Glad you're here with us.
Everybody checking in with us tonight.
Yeah. Ari girl is asking, can you make your dad's cornbread one day? Sure, she loves cornbread made that way. You like that cake like cornbread.
Too.
I tell you what, I do. I love it that way, and I get fussed at every time I make it on YouTube because all the truly Southern girls are saying, "Oh, don't make it that way."
Mhm.
But yes, that's the way I like it, Ari. So we'll have
You a
we'll
Southern
have
girl?
huh?
Aren't you a Southern girl?
Well, yes, kind of, but
You're right in Kentucky.
Kentucky's kind of on that line.
Half
Some people say
Midwest and half
uh-huh.
Southern.
I'm not far enough Southern, according to them.
However you make it is Southern.
It's Southern.
Mhm.
And so Victoria Vicky said, yes, ma'am. She ate her cornbread with sugar in it and still do. All right, Vicky. That is me. I still do. Sharon Thomas is with us tonight. We're glad to have you. She said, sugar and veggies, a hard no.
That's what my mom did though. Even in
Yeah.
rice, she put sugar, butter, rice, and milk in the rice.
Hmm.
And we ate it, you know.
Yeah.
And I made rice for my husband. He was like, well, what is this? And I'm like, it's rice. He's like, I don't do that anymore either, but you know.
Now, the only time I add the milk to it is if I'm making a rice cereal.
For
Now, we
breakfast.
do rice cereal sometimes in the winter,
Mhm,
and it's kind of creamy like oatmeal.
mhm.
And but it does have the sugar, the raisins, our craisins, whichever the case may be. But it's hot, and oh my goodness, it's so good. Um, Vicky said that she remembers being a kid and money was tight for her daddy and mama. She said she remembers eating buttermilk and cornbread or beans and cornbread. And she said sometimes that was dinner.
Mhm,
Now I wasn't a fan as a kid of buttermilk, but we did have milk
mhm,
and with cornbread. And so, you had to eat what your parents put before you.
mhm.
And times you're probably not as old as I am, but there were times in the past when things have been very tight.
Yes.
And
Been
so
there, done that.
prayerfully, we won't have to get quite that tight.
Yes.
But you just never know. You never know. So we may have to go back to some of that.
Let me just bring up our 20-item capsule grocery hauls that we
Mhm,
both have. Because
mhm,
one of the things that we've been teaching our home cooks, homemakers, how to do is if they would bring in a 20-item capsule grocery haul, everything they have in their pantry will work together and they can always make a meal. And one of the things we had talked about somewhere in here today was
mhm,
if you made like a meal plan where you had maybe 10 meals that you can cook very well, your family
mhm,
likes, and you just rotate those things around.
mhm,
A good way to feed your family. And then you know that you're cooking something that they like,
mhm,
and you don't have to spin your wheels trying to figure, oh gosh, now what am I going to make? Well, what do I have? Well, if everything
mhm.
works together, you can come up with something.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I think back to the past, um, I started basically with 10 meals.
Hmm.
And I had a Monday meal, I had a Tuesday meal, and each day of the week had a particular meal. And
Hmm.
I worked that for a long time until my list grew, where I was able to step out
Yeah.
and start making some new things. But I was a new cook, and
Hmm.
so you take those things that you can do well, or that you're learning to do even better along the way, and that's really what it is. It's a journey.
It's a
It's a
journey,
Cooking is a
not a
journey.
destination.
That's
It's a
right.
journey.
That's right. Because we're all learning things. Even at a woman of a certain age, we're learning new things along the way. And so I think that's the fun at this point. I'm looking at it positively.
Hmm.
The fun of having the adjustment with the diet back to a plant-based diet is
Yes.
that it's causing me to have to rethink
Hmm.
what I'm cooking and rethink how I'm preparing it.
Plan ahead.
Absolutely. I'm planning ahead, I'm keeping a lot of the practices that I normally would do. I'm just using different things.
Well,
I've always,
yesterday, well, today is Monday.
mhm,
I thought, okay, so I'm already knew that we have to start eating a little differently, and I thought we're going to have nuts and berries every morning this week, or at least I'll have it ready. So I went ahead and prepped the strawberries and rinsed the blueberries and had them in a bowl in the fridge, so that all he had to do was just get the yogurt
mhm,
out, get the bowl of not vegetables, the bowl of fruit out, and
mhm,
then you could assemble it really quick and not have to worry about trying to wash the berries and cut them up. It was all done. And
mhm,
that really helps. And that's one of the things you talk about all the time is prepping those vegetables ahead of time.
I tell you, it is a world of difference. And for those who are young homemakers that are out there, um, whether you're the male in the house who's doing the home cooking or you're the female in the house doing the home cooking, whatever it may be, we want to make it as easy for our partners as possible to
Mhm.
help. Now, it may take us a few minutes to do the prepping, but
Yes.
to be able to walk, I know for me, to be able to walk in the kitchen, peek around the corner, and see him taking out those little containers to put together whatever it is that he wants,
Mhm.
then I'm smiling. I'm
Yeah.
walking back going, yes,
And
because
it saves you time too. Because let's say I was
yes.
going to make a cabbage soup for dinner today, then I got tied
Mhm.
up busy doing something else, so I didn't get it done. So I'm gonna make it tomorrow. But if I would have had already prepped my carrots and all those other things, that I could have just, got them out and got it started. I could have made that cabbage soup for dinner tonight. But
Mhm.
since I had been involved in some other things, I didn't have the time before the show. So I thought, okay, we're going to have our big salad for dinner tonight.
Mhm.
And I'll make the soup tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. So, it certainly, it's a good thing. So we've got California, I think she's pronounced
Mm.
Gald girl. And I'm so grateful. She said that you ladies are talking about this. She says she feels crazy cooking for her household most days. And she says she's so glad she's not alone. Let me tell you, you definitely are not alone. We are all in this together, and we're all trying to work through this because, we've got families that we need to feed, and we want to be able to feed them to the best of our ability, and to feed them the best food that we can possibly
Mhm.
provide for them. Now,
And
I'm
take
going
it down to the lowest common denominator, like you said earlier.
to.
Whatever the lowest part of that meal plan, and just give everybody that. And have
Yes.
extra, like you have to make some meat for the big guy, but everything
Hmm.
else just like, okay, this is what I can have. He can have all of this too, and I'll make this one extra thing for him.
Yeah, and it's saving time and effort. Vicky, I got you. I didn't bring my fan
That's
in here tonight, but I had my fan.
okay.
And
Hot flash. Like, where's my
where
fan?
is it? I thought I had brought it in here, but I didn't bring it. But it's fun. We have to have fun. Now, uh Tam said, come on, boots on the ground. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We got to be able to do that.
Mhm,
Now, Vicky said that's right. Kids appear to have more allergies and health problems nowadays, and they do.
mhm,
And I think back to the classroom. It hasn't really been that long since I've been out of the classroom. It was amazing how many I'd have 31 children sitting in a classroom, and each one had some little unique allergy or condition
mhm,
that, and I had taught 36 years. So I'm thinking, whoa,
mhm.
when did we get to the point that all of our kids are sick? I mean, it was noses are running, and I mean in good weather. We're not talking about the middle of the winter. We're talking about good days, and they're dealing with sickness and illness. So those are things we have to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Now, so thinking about that budget, so we've got to be able to work our budget
Mhm,
and get the best food that we can, and to try to buy it in season. Now, girls, I know we've got some suggestions, and I know we've talked about trying to make those changes. Denise was just saying of trying to first work with those things that everybody can have,
mhm,
and then just add a little touch of something extra that
mhm.
maybe those can have. And particularly like in our household, is going to be that little extra is going to be whatever the protein is, the meat that's going to be there. That's something that I'm not going to eat. It could be that sometimes we kind of have to look at our expectations. We may not be able to have all of the, I know I used to have like two, three vegetables, per dinner, and, the meat and the bread and the gravy and it just kind of went on, plus the salad. I had to rethink that.
Mhm.
Number one, for budgetary reasons.
Yep.
And number two, we didn't eat all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up overeating. So that wasn't something that we needed. And, we might have to adapt our recipes. Recipes are frameworks anyway. So if we have to adapt it, it may be that we were talking about the sugar in the cornbread. Maybe we won't use as much sugar in the cornbread, as we're making it. If we have someone who has a sugar intolerance,
Mm-hmm.
so we have to, or even when we're thinking about gluten, we may have to switch out the type of flours that we're using,
Yes.
as we're making those. So we have to have a strategy. That's the main thing of being able to work out that strategy and to try to keep. This is what I've been trying to do to make sure that the things that are visible, that are here, that when we open the pantry, that the pantry is full of things that I can eat.
Mm-hmm.
Not, there are no cookies. Okay, I'm going to tell on somebody. I'm going to tell. Tonight, you all, let me tell you how bad she is. Tonight, we set up, we got ready to set up. Miss Denise is sitting there and she is just chomping on this cookie. And if that cookie looks so good, if I could have snatched it across that screen, it would have been mine. And so I've been dying for a good cookie. And so she's just smacking on this cookie. I said, as my tongue's hanging out, Miss Denise, what are you eating? And she said, oh, I have a turtle cookie, but now I only cooked 3.
I didn't do it all like that now. Come on now. She's a little bit extra. You get a salad for dinner. No meat, just beans. Planned the cookies.
But she was good. Wow, she was good. She didn't make all of the cookies.
Mm-hmm.
She made only a few cookies, just enough, so that there was no overeating. And and that's something we have to think about. I know, I may make a batch of cookies, but I'm only going to fix enough. It may be 4 cookies. That's 2 for him, 2 for me. That's when I was eating cookies, and the rest went in the freezer. And I put it in a log so I could slice
on
it.
the show last week too. We were talking about something, and they mentioned make a batch of cookies, and then you put the dough on the cookie sheet, and then freeze them. Which I'm not done yet, but I'm going to start doing that. Making my own instead of buying the brand from Aldi's, which is delicious, but I can control the ingredients if I make my own at home.
That's true. And it's good. It's a nice way. And 2, if you have company to drop by, you can drop a few cookies into the oven and have fresh cookies for your guest. And if in my case, it's usually my grandkids or my grandson to come by, and he knows that when he sees those cookies go in, that probably most of those cookies are going to get to go home with him, and because I don't want them left in the house. And so that's the fun part of being able to do that. But that just helps you control. And it really, a lot of it is control. It's not
one other thing though that I learned to control. You had batch cooking on the list, and so we hadn't quite got there yet. But when I was going to go to care for a relative, I made a batch of that pasta e fagioli soup that you made. And I made it the night before I left, and I was busy, so I didn't eat any. And I thought, okay, my husband's not going to eat this when I'm gone. He might eat some tomorrow, but he's not going to eat the soup every day for the next week. So I got out some of my freezer containers, and I put 3 containers of that. And each container holds 4 cups. That makes a big pot of soup. And also pasta goes in it. And I had cooked the pasta. And I think either you or someone made the comment that if you put the pasta in it, it'll swell up. So I put a cup of pasta on top, put the lid on, and froze it so that the pasta wasn't like all in the middle. And so the past couple of weeks, I was like, okay, so what's for lunch? Rather than running out to get something or having to do something, I could take one of those containers out of the freezer, microwave, and we had pasta e fagioli soup for lunch, and it was delicious, and it was enough for the 2 of us. So it's really helpful to make those things ahead. So for you moms with littles, now you might want to freeze yours in a little larger containers or even smaller individual ones. My
Mhm,
containers would serve like 4 cups of soup, which serves about 2 people.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but you could do that or some smaller things. Then that way, when you've got to feed your kids something quickly, you can pull that out. You know exactly what's in it. So you're not giving them processed foods. Well, I guess the pasta's not homemade. I'm going to try that one day though. But you could try those kinds of things.
Mhm,
Think of batch cooking. Don't just think about making a whole bunch of different meals, but
mhm.
one meal, 1 pot of chili, 1 pot of beef stew, one pot of some kind of chicken soup, and then you put that in the freezer in a container. You got another meal.
Exactly, exactly. And the good thing too, I know my kids always loved Campbell's chicken noodle soup.
Yes.
And but Campbell's chicken noodle soup, the sodium count is so outrageous. And so I started making my own version
Mm-hmm.
and a lot less salt, almost none. And but it is something that I keep in the freezer all the time.
And you
And when
can get those little skinny noodles to put in
Mhm,
your own pasta in your.
mhm. And when I use those, I go ahead and drop them in, but I don't cook them. And especially the little fine, the finer skinny noodles that you can put in, drop those in, put your soup over it, put it into the freezer. And when you're heating it, because I usually put it in a microwave container, when I put it into the microwave, it's cooking the little noodles as well as warming up the soup.
Oh, you don't
So
cook the noodles before you freeze
so
it.
in that case, I don't, and it works out quite well. So you could do it even in a quart jar, and then that way, just put like a little clump of little noodles in there, and you can play around just kind of a good pinch, and
Mhm.
put those in, and it works out great. Makes the great chicken noodle soup. But you have those, and they're ready to go. So we've got now, how many of you, I know some of you have talked about the fact that you have a variety of different eaters who are out there. Now, Dolores is saying that she always cooked from scratch for her sons who are now in their 30s. And that is so sweet. Now,
Mhm.
the good news is that, when you do that, I noticed that my son cooks. He cooked right along with me. My daughter cooks. They cooked right along with me. Now, did they have to? No. But they liked playing around in the kitchen. And so they got used to being in the kitchen. So now they love going in the kitchen, and they don't have any problem going in there and cooking meals. Hazel said, thankfully now it's just her to cook meals for. And she said, however, it's a challenge at a family function when you're the when you are used to those healthy foods, and you're the healthy eating one. And it is, Hazel.
Mhm.
It's hard because you don't really want to hurt anyone's feelings
Right.
along the way. And fortunately, most of my friends know, I'm coming with a big salad.
Mhm.
So they've gotten used to that, and their feelings are not hurt. I will say up front, we don't mind coming. Do you mind if I bring my salad? And
Mhm.
I just make that a part of it so that they know I'm going to show up with my big salad, and that's probably what I'm going to eat, so that I don't take away from whatever it is that they plan to do.
Mhm.
Tamro said she often brings alternatives with her, especially for a cookout. There you go.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, she brings her own veggie burger and asks, can I throw it on the grill too? I did that for the 4th, and also did it for Memorial Day. I just took my veggie burger.
Somebody probably tried to get your burger too.
You know what? Luckily, I had taken 2 because somebody else was there who was a plant-based eater, and they just assumed that this family would have an alternative burger.
Mhm.
and didn't. So when they heard somebody else had a veggie burger, they said, "Oh, can I have one of those?" And it's like, yeah, because I wasn't going to eat two. And
Mhm.
so, they were able to eat that. So that worked out great. And
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. Sometimes you just have to take what you need.
Mhm.
And I know Tamril is working right along with me. We're doing this together, trying to get through this. Beef said she would like to add on to what Miss Wilson said. She says she's tried to have many family dinners where we are just sitting and talking at the table as a family, but she can't seem to get them off the phone.
That's a problem. And I've heard families address it differently. But
Mhm,
what some families will do is they will, especially if they have children, they will collect all the phones, put them in a
mhm,
basket, and set it somewhere and said after dinner we can all get our phones back, and then they'll sit there at the table and then they'll force to talk with one another. And the
mhm,
first few times you try that, even though you're with adults, because you can't just like take their phones, but you
mhm,
can say, let's try something different tonight. Let's put our phones in the basket or put our phones elsewhere and just
mhm,
try to connect with each other. And you might need to have some planned conversation ahead of time to
mhm.
sprinkle, just because folks not used to having conversations these days sometimes. Now me, I love to chat. As you
I
can
do
tell,
too.
you probably can tell that. But you might need to sprinkle some conversations in there to kind of get things started. But that's certainly an option. And if you've got little ones, you can take their phones and, no biggie. Just like, look, at no phones at the table. And they just learn that even if it's a new habit, say from now on, starting today, there are no phones at the table. That
Mhm.
includes mom and dad. Because if you say it, you got to live it as well. And then, 30 minutes for this tech-free zone, and you have that meal together and see if it makes a difference in your family. So give it a try.
And too, you want to make sure that the conversations that you're having are fun ones
Yes.
so that they won't mind
Hmm.
giving up the phone because they know that whatever the conversation is going to be, it's going to be something light, it's going to be something funny,
Hmm.
because really the dinner table is no place to try to work out whatever disagreements you
Hmm.
might have. It's not a good time to fuss at anyone,
Nope.
even though I have to admit I've had a couple of times where that's happened, but
Yeah.
but that's been a long time ago. And but you want to be able to have things that are going to make you happy,
Hmm.
and for everyone to want to come to the table and to get to talk. We even tried topics of, okay, tonight's your topic, what do you want to talk about tonight?
Hmm.
And they would put their heads together and come up with something that was going to be interesting for everybody. And so the more fun it is, then kids will not miss the phone. So we kind of have to reteach them
Yeah.
how to communicate at the table.
Mhm.
Hazel said that she's changed how she eats because of some health issues. She said she's been able to get some family members on board as well. But she says she doesn't push her beliefs regarding healthy eating. Well, not too much. Hazel, you're absolutely right. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not there to convince them. If they decide to come on board, that's fine.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that goes for hubby. He knows I'm whatever it is, you do you. And and if you decide you want to eat something that I have, that's fine. And
Hmm.
I try to make sure that it's pleasant. So Vicky said that for some reason people do get offended as you try to eat healthier. Yes, they do. They're into their traditional ways of preparing. She said when she was eating a salad, she had someone to tell her, "Oh, you think you're better than us over there eating that rabbit food." What? Yeah.
Yeah, that's disappointing, but you might want to be prepared with a response if that happens again. Says, no, I
Mhm,
don't think I'm better than you are, but I have to be concerned about my own health or something like
mhm,
that, or
mhm,
because of this, that, or the other, I have to eat differently, and sometimes people are threatened when they see you begin to go on a better path or a
mhm,
different path. They want you over here with them. So sometimes
mhm.
that's what that's all about too. So try not to
That's
share.
true. That's true. Dolores is saying that a good idea is making relish trays that the children are going to love to dip. And
Mhm,
you're absolutely right, Dolores. The youngest granddaughter, who's a little finicky with vegetables, she will eat them raw,
mhm,
and she likes a dip
mhm.
always. So her carrots have to have a dip. She has a particular, dressing that she likes. The cucumbers have to have a dip. Now she doesn't like tomatoes, but that's okay. She eats her cucumbers, she eats her carrots, and of course she'll eat any kind of fruit. But dips are great ideas.
Yes.
Great ideas. Now JC said, always bring your own food. And then if the hosting family or friends happens to have something that you can eat, then it's great. But if not, you've come prepared.
Mhm,
And you're absolutely right. Your health is more important. And
mhm.
yes, it is. And we do it in a loving way to be able to say, guys, I've got to make some changes here. And so I didn't want to overtax you because I knew you were preparing for everyone. So
Mhm,
I just brought what I needed. And you might even bring enough to share
mhm.
with everyone. That may be your part of your contribution to whatever the function is. Beep is saying, she said that she thinks the main problem in their case with the phone is that they're a common addiction among families. That may be true,
Yeah,
especially if there is social media involved. No one really knows or values the quality of family time. And unfortunately, you're absolutely right. They've kind of gotten away from that.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot more fun on the internet than it is
yeah.
on at the table. Michelle said a container with a compartment in the middle for dip works great for a salad bar. She says she fills each compartment, including the dip section, with different vegetables, and it's easy to take just one dish from the
Oh, yeah,
refrigerator.
big platter, with
Mhm, mhm. I'm trying to think of who. There's a particular brand. Um, what's the Oh shoot. We used to go to their parties and you bought all the little kitcheny stuff.
oh,
Um,
Pampered Chef.
oh, yes, Pampered Chef. Pampered Chef, I still have one, had a tray like that had all the little compartments in the dip section. And it does. It works great. And those are the things I typically take if I'm going to a party. And I usually volunteer whether it's fruit or whether it's vegetable. But that is a good way to be able to put that together and have it in your refrigerator. Now, Renee Jones says she loves cooking and she's gotten away from a lot of processed food. But her 22-year-old wants the processed food sometimes and definitely fast food. But she didn't grow up on a lot of the fast food.
You can
And
acquire the taste. I
yeah,
mean, it tastes better than a bunch of grease. Greasy French fries, fried chicken, it's delicious. But is it the best for you? No.
yeah, and I'm thinking of a lot of 22-year-olds are kind of following with everybody else. That's where they hang out, at fast food places, somewhere that's easy.
Mhm.
And prayerfully, they will get back to the diet that and the cooking and they don't want to cook at 22. So
No,
hopefully they'll get back to
my
uh,
granddaughter makes pasta, and that's about it.
learning how to do all those good things. Now Terry said $60. She said she can't get out of the store without paying 100. I hear you.
I'm
Now
right there too.
me too. And if hubby goes, it's gonna be the 100. So I try to leave him at home. JC said a family member always said there was no difference between organic and regular. However, one time she was visiting and had some organic grapes washed and in the fridge. He ate them up and said they must have been probably the best thing. I'm trying to see if she came back. Oh yeah. Uh, Probably the best thing. I'm sure she probably finished that. Uh, that's okay. That's okay, JC. We
That's
got it.
it.
But
It
he
said the
probably,
best he ever had, not knowing they were organic.
oh, I see. I see. Yep. You're absolutely right. He didn't even know. And those are, grapes are expensive anyway, but organic, especially expensive. Um,
Okay.
okay. Thriving on Enough says she enjoyed Eating to Beat Disease by Dr. William Lee. He really breaks down how different foods aid in healing health. If you all have read the book, I think his name is last name's kind of Gerber or Gieber or Geiber, but the name of the book is How Not to Die. And it's such a horrible title,
Mhm.
but the book is really good. And it really does talk about working with the body to help it heal itself.
Mhm.
And it's one that if you haven't read and you have a chance to pick it up, you might be able to get it through thrift books and be able to pick that up and to kind of get into it. I think you'd enjoy it.
Mhm.
One more. Let's see. We got Terry. She said she remembers when she was young, her grandmother would say, "Don't give your babies a cold breakfast. Cook their breakfast." And it used to be in many of the cafeterias that they did prepare hot
Yeah,
breakfasts,
they did.
and it's just because of time and economics that
Mhm.
they've gotten away from it. So, but definitely that is a great way to send your children out and going to school. Now, we're gonna wrap it up because we're getting late, and we've had a lot to talk about, and it's certainly been fun. But cooking for a family, just keeping this in mind, takes patience.
Mhm.
We've got to be creative.
Mhm.
And of course, we got a lot of love that we want to be able to, because otherwise we wouldn't do what we're doing. So every meal that we make, and they don't realize this, it's a gift. It's a gift that you're giving them. So
Mhm.
because of that, we want to make it the best that we can.
Best that we can.
The best that we can. And so just keep trying the new things that you're doing.
Mhm.
You may have to do it one thing at a time. You may not be able to change everything uh,
Yeah.
at the same time, if for no other reason, for budgetary reasons. But for every win, every small win, then it's big. That's a big thing. So, and for all of you home cooks, you're doing great. We're working together.
We're working together. Before we wrap it up, Catherine Fraser wanted to add something. Can you click on her real quick? Because I think
Let's
you'll be interested in what she says. Catherine Fraser, she's down.
Oh, I see her.
Pop her up there. Yeah.
Okay. She's saying, "Good evening, ladies. I love tonight's topic. I want to add the subject Miss Leona just touched on, making foods from scratch. So many families are overscheduled, have have overscheduled time in the kitchen, and the time in the kitchen is limited. Catherine, we talked a little bit about that earlier, and
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. It is. Home cooks are overbooked.
Mhm.
And whether you're working at home, homeschooling, there's things that's going on at home, or you may be one who's bringing home the bacon and you're out there, out at 6:30 in the morning trying
Mhm.
to get to work and do whatever. And then you've got kids to come home and shuttle wherever they need to go. But, one thing to keep in mind is that if you can take maybe 30 minutes a week and do the prep work, then
Mhm.
once your groceries are in, do some prep work, have a plan, work
Mhm.
that 5 meals. And with those 5 meals, you're going to really have enough to cover 7 days because you're going to have leftovers. And
Mhm.
you may have one night, one treat night, where
Yeah.
you may order something else. But certainly, we want to be able to cook at home as much as we can
I
because
was thinking just a little bit
Mhm.
too, when you were talking about
Sure.
those other meals, the batch cooking on
Mhm. Mhm.
Saturday might be devoted to trying to get the house clean or whatever, but if
Mhm.
you took a little time, began to take time
Mhm.
Saturday and Sunday, and just maybe cook a couple meals that you could put in the
Mhm.
and then each week a couple more that you can put in the freezer, so that
Mhm.
you get about 7 or 8 meals ahead in the freezer, and then
Mhm.
you continue to do this on the weekends. That'll help you too, because you're right. Families today are overscheduled. Kids are
They
overscheduled.
are.
You need to keep a calendar. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That's true. And I can tell you, I've done this where on Saturday, I got up on Saturday and I, even though I wasn't going to eat it that day, I started my crock pot with something, with some type of meal. And then when it was finished, I packaged it up. And I usually try to do two meals, two enough for two meals in that crock pot. I got a big one, and then I knew I had two meals in the freezer. Typically before I'd leave for church, I'd start that crock pot with something else, and then that gave me four meals in the
Mhm.
freezer. So then that way you ended up with meals that are homemade,
Yes.
that are sitting in your freezer just waiting to be used, and you accumulate along the way. And so we've got to be able to think of those kinds of techniques to be
Mhm.
able to batch prepare. And if you're cooking a soup, don't cook a little pot, cook a big pot. So that when you're finished, now I save all of my Chinese container, the tall ones. I usually get the big guy likes the hot and sour soup, so we get the big one. I
Mhm.
save all of those, and the soups go in there. So typically, when I fix soup, we'll have dinner, whatever it is, and from the soup. But I typically have three or four of those containers that are filled with soup that go into the freezer. And that's by design. So
Mhm.
then that way I know if I want to take one of those out, like Miss Denise was saying, and use it for lunch. That's enough for the two of us for lunch.
Mhm.
Or if I decide we've been out and we've gone somewhere, I can come home, take that out. That's dinner ready to go, and just add a salad to it. So, those are the kind of things that we can start helping. Catherine, I'm going to assume that you probably um, already have a plan for being able to get your meal on the table and your schedule's working. But you may have someone who just needs a little suggestion. Say, how about fixing, get that crock pot out, try the so and so, and make the such and such. While you're cleaning house, crock pot's taking care of the meal. And
Mhm.
if you're fortunate enough to find a crock pot, an extra crock pot at the
Mhm.
Goodwill or
Two of them
some,
going?
huh?
Are you going to say get two of them going?
Yes,
Okay.
I've done two. I've done
Yeah.
two. And had two crock pots going. And then that way I had enough food. I knew I had two meals in this one. I had two meals in that one. I put
Right.
all of that away. So that's enough for meals for 2 weeks right
Mhm.
there, that I don't have to walk in and worry about what's for dinner. So that saves us. Even those of us who are seasoned home cooks, we need time when we don't have to walk in and cook, so we have to help save ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's a suggestion of using the batch cooking. I appreciate your saying that. I'm sorry I almost missed you,
I'm
but
here.
I'm glad Miss Denise told you. Lisa said she had a funny story. She said her dad was head cook in Korea. How about that? And
Mhm.
they didn't have anything to eat for dessert. He made cornbread with some sugar, added and drizzled it with chocolate frosting, and there was not a bite left.
Wow. Now that is interesting. Chocolate on cornbread.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, my dad, like I said, his cornbread looked like a pound cake. And then he would have the audacity to drizzle it with honey and He
Mhm.
loved it. He loved it. I
Sounds
mean,
delicious.
it was so good, but it was so sweet. And so so as we think back to the way that we prepare things and along the way, but we want to have fun in the kitchen, and we want that time we spend in the kitchen to be successful.
Yes.
That's the main thing. We want it to be successful. So that if we're happy, if the cooks are happy, everybody's going to be happy. So that's what we're shooting for. So Lisa, so I hope all of you have certainly enjoyed tonight, because this has been a great
It's been
discussion,
good. Yes, it's been a
and
good.
it's something that we're all dealing with, all of us.
Mhm.
And so as you think of things along the way, please throw them into the comment box, because what I have found is that there's a lot of learning that's going on in the comment box. The other day, and you all can go back and look at this, I noticed from last week's discussion, one of our viewers decided that she was going to share a recipe. And so she went in and she said, I'm sharing this recipe with everybody. Oh my gosh, it sounded delicious. So I'm going to have to try that. She's a plant based eater too. But so think about that. Our comment box is our community. It's our
Yeah.
chance to be able to talk to each other. And so please feel free to share great
And your
information.
community staff too. They can come over there and share notes with you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So please do that. Miss Janice, what you got to say as we close out tonight?
Well, I have great news to share. So, what I would like to share tonight, my big news is that my home canning course, it's called Yes You Can, a beginner's guide to water bath canning, is going to be released shortly. And this course is designed for the people who are new to canning. I mean, you know nothing, or maybe you're just a little bit nervous about trying it. And I walk you through everything step by step. And it's got lots of few tips and different things like that, and a workbook that goes along with it. So if you've ever wanted to know how to make jams and jellies and salsas and sauces so that you know what's in the food, so that you're putting the best that you can on your table,
Mm.
sign up for my course. So in the meantime, sign up for my newsletter so that I can have you on the list, and then I can let you know when the course is available. It should be available in another couple of weeks. And because it's canning season right now, so I need to get started.
Absolutely. Hmm. Well, that's wonderful. I'm so excited. I can't wait now. I'm not a new canner, but Miss Janice has a new toy that I'm debating on whether I need to buy one. But anyway, I'm being good. I'm going to stay with what I have, but I am certainly enjoying her. I'm enjoying from afar her electric water bath canner,
Oh, I love it.
and it
But
it
you have more kitchen space than I do, though, and you have a
well,
gas cooktop
yeah,
too.
yeah, but I don't need another thing in
I,
this kitchen. But it's guys, I hope that you have had a great time, because when we're working together and trying to work out sometimes it's the little things that hang us up in the kitchen. And I'm hoping that we are able to work through and to get through those things that um I'll have to. There's one other person I see that she has a question. We'll have to answer that before we leave. But anyway, so we want to be able to work through some of the things that you may be having problems with, and in talking about the sugar. I saw somebody talking about the dentist. That's what got me off. But the dentist was saying that as at the less sugar that we eat, the dental appointments get better and they're not as expensive. So we want to be able to deal with that. Now,
Mhm.
Angela, Happy Mommy, saying that she has written questions like, where would you visit if you could go any place in the world? And I have put the questions in a bowl and passed the bowl around the table, and people would pick a question. That's a great idea.
Good way
That's
to get the conversation started.
Absolutely. That's how to get that conversation started. So, I just thought about that. You may have, Angela, thank you for that. You may have everyone to create, say, 5 questions and
Ah,
have them put them on little slips of paper, put them in a jar, and draw one for the evening. And whatever that's going to be the question of the day. And
mhm.
that would be the conversation to be able to talk about for that night. And then that way you'd have some questions that may lean a little more to the adults, and some would lean to the teens, and then some of those conversations are for the babies. So those are things that we might want to think about. Good conversation starters. You see something else, Miss
Yeah,
Denise?
Sherry asks, how does she sign up for the newsletter? It's in my description box, except it's not in the description box tonight because since it was your show, I didn't put that in there. I'll drop it in my description box.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'll drop it in my description box so that you can catch it there.
Absolutely. And I'm finishing up this month's newsletter. Just shoot me an email if you're not already on the email list, and it will come out to you. It should be finished this week. My plan is to have it ready by Friday and be able to send it. So I think you'll enjoy it. It's something, it's got a few extras in there that are great for the summer that you may want to jump on very quickly.
The newsletters are
So
so nice.
I think you'll enjoy it. I hope, as I said, I hope you have enjoyed tonight. And I see Lenora saying that her personal challenge, she's trying to read a psalm a day, and there are 150. You're absolutely right. And so it's going to take her all the way to the holidays. So we all have things that we're working toward. I know I have been, Miss Denise has been kind of changing and tweaking her morning routine, as well as I've been working through a book as well that I use as a part of devotion, and trying to make sure that we get the things in that are nourishing to all of us. We're looking at nourishing, and that's the word. We're looking at those things that are nourishing food wise, nourishing to our spirits, nourishing to our minds,
Yeah.
and certainly nourishing to our family. So, guys, I'm going to let you go tonight, but next week we're going to be right here at 7:45 on Homemaking with Purpose, and on Miss Denise's channel and mine as well. And we will be talking about some fun things. So be ready, and hopefully at that point we'll learn a little more about the jamming class, because
Oh, yeah.
yes, you can.
Oh,
All right, guys, have a wonderful week.
good
We'll
night.
see you soon. Good night.